This national database, which covers England and Wales, is storing pictures and videos of people they may have questioned, arrested or observed at demonstrations or festivals, not many of whom were never convicted of any offence. 90 million items are from custody images alone, with DNA evidence and fingerprints. The police are legally obliged to automatically destroy any records they hold of people found innocent or never charged. And in 2012, the High Court ruled that keeping images of innocent people was unlawful too. Yet, despite this ruling, the police continue to amass millions more of these images. Now the Home Secretary has ruled that images of innocent people should be deleted, but only if the person concerned specifically asks for this to happen. The snag is that many of us have got no idea whether our image is on the database or not. Is your image your public property? Paul, Lord Scriven, you've been campaigning on this for a long time. Who's on this database?
Well, we don't know, Nicky. That's the issue. They could have, if you've been into custody, false arrest, or the court found you innocent, you're on, because the guidance that just comes out says that the database and the software they're using doesn't have the ability to wipe you off. The software doesn't know whether you're innocent or guilty, so you remain on. So there are millions of people. They're using this off, they're scanning Facebook, they're scanning people who have been to festivals, who have been uploaded.
Why should people be worried?
Well, why should we be worried? Because the whole basis of British law is you're innocent until proven guilty. And I have no problem with the police using good detective techniques and using appropriate images. But to say that the state, the government, has a right to have your face on a database that's not just used by the police, it's used by many other government agencies, because the fact you've been to a festival, or the fact that they have been scanning your face page, or the fact is that you were wrongly arrested and uploaded onto this system, that they can keep it and use it for inquiring about whether you're about a crime or whether about...
You could go on and get a photograph of every single person in this audience, or by Googling it, by looking online. You could probably get that of anyone within 2 or 3 minutes. So there's a difference, it's out there.
Yeah, but there's a difference between you and I as an individual citizen going on to Google and uploading something which is on Facebook, and the state holding millions and millions of innocent images for the purpose of its own use, and that's the issue.
Darren, why is this, you're a body language and deception detection expert, former cop, why is this useful? Is it digital policing for a digital age?
I think in terms of gathering intelligence, I would agree that, you know, capturing people's images, carte blanche is not really a good idea, but I think if people have been convicted of offences, I mean, for example, DNA, you know, that came in many years ago, it's part of something we accept now, and a lot of offences come to light now, historically, that otherwise wouldn't have been convicted. So I think it has got a place, providing that it's regulated and it's not used, again, just to capture innocent people's images. I think that could be a potentially dangerous thing.
How reliable is it? Even DNA, which is just amazing. There can be mistakes with contamination. Lots of people look like each other, don't they?
I mean, again, the face, there's lots of systems out there at the moment in terms of capturing biometric characteristics. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of companies use fingerprints. You know, we all use kind of fingerprints on phones. So biometrics and things like that are very much out there and part of normal society at the moment.
If you were a criminal, how would you circumvent this? Because there are these 3D masks that are coming.
Yeah, I saw that in the press recently. Yeah. Again, I think to most systems there's going to be a loophole. But I think it just comes down to the fact that if you're not engaged in terrorism or in crime, you know, you generally have got nothing to worry about, but providing the system is regulated.
You've got nothing to worry about, Carol.
Well, we had all these arguments with the DNA
Have you got something to worry about?
I worry about my relationship with the state and the police treating me as a potential criminal. I'm not a potential criminal. I hope I'm not a potential criminal. And in this instance, there's my right to privacy and not to be treated as a suspect, but also it isn't actually effective for the police. To have a bigger database doesn't make it a better database. The DNA database this year has been more successful than ever. That's because it's not clogged up with millions of innocent people, that the police don't need their information. The police don't need my photograph. And to have it does nothing to improve their detection rates.
David.
It's one of those, I mean, I look at it from a legal point of view. Yeah, right to privacy, Article 8, European Convention on Human Rights, it's there. It's qualified. It's qualified because if it's necessary in a democratic society for the state to interfere, which in this case could be the police, to prevent or detect crime, then it's a qualified.
But hold on, the High Court ruling in 2012, the whole reason why this is here is that's untrue. Article 8, what they said was, if you're innocent and if you're or if you're convicted, the police, the state, cannot use your image in the same way. The guidelines that have just come out says that the Home Secretary has said whether you're innocent or you're guilty and you don't ask for your image to be taken off and you may not know, they will store it for up to 10 years and use it the same way as a convicted person. So the issue isn't about the police using it. I believe that it does have a role. The real issue is that people who are not convicted of anything, are innocent, are having their face used by the state and are presumed to be guilty rather than innocent, and that's the issue.
I think the issue is, yes, I mean, I agree with, if a person is arrested, and I don't like the term wrongful arrest, I think a person arrested and insufficient evidence to charge.
But you use it, this is the classic argument, and Carol points out, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. We've had that before, haven't we?
I mean, but if a person is arrested and there's insufficient evidence to charge or is acquitted at court and they've got no other offences, then by all means, I agree, just destroy the image. Destroy the image in that case. But there are individuals who have a criminal background who are still perhaps being investigated. It's useful for that. People who are failing to answer bail, it's useful for that. It's useful for identification purposes. And our faces change. But people I look at people my age, some have lost their hair. We all change. And it's very useful, but we're quite happy for it to
So
be
that's why you constantly need to update.
Yeah, and your face is not as private as your DNA or your fingerprint.
Yeah.
But
people are having their photographs taken, for example, at music festivals, and they're not even aware that that's happening as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't justify why they're doing that.
Yeah, let's go to the audience. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your face is on a TV screen.
Yes, and that may be useful, but I would prefer if my permission was sought. That is a big difference. No matter how useful something may be, if someone is aware at least that their image is being used, that is a lot more helpful. They can have a choice in the matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll move it along to you with the Brian jumper on.
The problem would be false positives. With an increasing amount of civilian population, you do run the risk of having false positives. The other notorious bad fact about facial mapping is it can't do contrasting and darker toning skin. Yes. So if we're going to implement something that takes away freedom and miscarriage of justice, surely that is no reason to involve innocent people into it. If you've got 10 people being lined up and the picture is all with an ethnic minority, surely there is 9 times out of 10 chance for false positives. Yeah. You know, it's not guaranteed you will come up with the culprits.
Yeah.
Nikki, it's
really
Let me
get a couple more audience. Can
sure.
I take a couple more audience first? Yeah, a purple jumper, hi.
As a person who chants Hare Krishna mantra as a spiritual practice, I've come to understand that I'm 24/7 under surveillance by Krishna or God. And that's not a problem for me. Sometimes I'm actually comforted by it because I understand that he loves me and he's my friend. And I think that the issue that we have with state surveillance is that trust that the state is our well-wisher is being eroded. Dodgy dossiers, WikiLeaks, etc., etc.
The divine Big Brother is one thing, but the state is sort of Kim Jong-un in the sky is one thing. But
and I think also that erosion of public trust is a problem because it morphs into our own relationships between each other.
Interesting, yeah.
It creates paranoia and distrust amongst people. And I think spiritual practice, again, has a role to play in mitigating that because it helps us to understand that we're all actually connected and that we're loved amongst each other.
Interesting link with the first debate as well, the sowing the seeds of paranoia.
It's not paranoia if you are being watched and monitored.
It doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
It's absolutely true. it's the vision of the police and the state as a kind of friendly big brother, that it's okay if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. That's a really terrifying concept, and I think any kind of free-thinking member of society would absolutely stand up for the fact that I am innocent until proven guilty, in the state and the
police. This could prove your innocence as well, though, couldn't it? And can go the other way.
Well, the other thing is we are increasingly living in a culture which is much more sort of comfortable with putting your picture on Facebook, putting your picture out on the internet. But that's one thing when it's in your own personal control. But the police, I mean, they must have hundreds of pictures of me because I've been on many demonstrations, and that makes me feel very nervous because the police have a history of not exactly being to the line and right about using images. They have a history of sort of fitting crimes and things like that. We can't ignore that. And this is a very worrying concept for an individual.
David?
Yeah, I mean, I think there can be a degree of paranoia about state observation. I mean, it's not just our photographs. A recent piece of legislation, Investigatory Powers Act, came out late last year. It was highly scrutinised, in my view, but this is about people worrying about what's on their social media. And Andrew Sanders from MI5, about 18 months ago, before the parliamentary committee, said, we haven't got the resources to monitor everybody's social media. It's about risk. It's assessing.
But journalists, it's a very good resource for journalists, social media, isn't it? Because when there's a story comes up about somebody, they're straight in there, and there are photographs of them on social media all over the newspapers as well.
Well, I think, the police do still police by consent in this country. We still have that notion. They are still local systems.
But where's the consent of the millions of people on this database that are being used by them? There's no consent. So I think it's a bit trite to say the police at the moment police by consent. There's no consent. And my worry about this, Nikki, is actually it will undermine confidence in the police. I come from an area, South Yorkshire, where the police has been undermined by bad policing. I believe that this is going to lead to
Rotherham.
I believe this is going to lead to bad policing for exactly what the young man said. First of all, there is an issue about racial profiling in terms of facial this facial imaging. It's proven that people with darker pigments and darker skin, the facial software gets it wrong. And what's more, there's only one test being done on a database of 1 million faces, because everyone says this is about 90% perfect. But the examples have been done on databases of about between 12 and 20,000 people. The one case that's been done in America, which is on 1 million, shows that it goes down to only 33% effectiveness. So there's an issue about actually the technology not being effective, compounded by the fact that there's millions of people on here.
I think if you've got somebody that's suspected of being involved, say, in terrorism, things like that, I mean, I know in the States they've already got these systems in operation, and I agree that it's by no means foolproof. Things like polygraph, it's not evidential. The things that I do aren't evidential. It just alludes to certain behaviours. But I think if it helps to maybe prevent something happening, it's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? I mean, if I'm waiting on a plane and there's somebody taken off that plane that is suspected, and it's been detected through facial recognition, again, you've got to have the evidence there, but surely it's a good thing.
What if they're wearing a burqa? Are you saying that the assumption in our society should be that people always show their faces? I mean, there is an implication there, isn't there?
Yeah, not necessarily. I just think that if there's that intelligence there, for example, I went to a conference recently and saw this software firsthand, and yes, it's not perfect, but if people have got have been tagged for intelligence, if they're suspected of being involved in offences, this software was actually quite accurate in picking out. They sort of tagged some of the delegates and said, right, imagine that you're a suspect. You walk towards us now in a group, and it did sort of facially trip it, red flagged them. So I think it all comes down to the fact, for me, it has to be heavily regulated, and I agree that not everybody should be on a database. It's a dangerous concept. But I think for people that have been convicted or are suspected, it's a good thing.
But the thing is, it's the old point, isn't it? I don't know, Carol, they might have all these photographs, they might be collating all this information, but it's like the Stasi or the Soviet Union. I went to work there towards the end of the Soviet Union. They're kind of filming us. No one was ever going to watch it. Nobody ever going to look at it. It's so much stuff. There is, for practical purposes, you cannot wade through it.
And that's one thing we have to think about, is that we are infringing on rights. We are encroaching upon this idea of trusting the police and policing by consent. And we have to do that in a balanced fashion to say, well, what are the benefits? Are we benefiting from this? Is it an effective use of police resources to have a database with 19 million if mostly they're going to get false positives, or if it's going to impact upon police? And I disagree wholly with the idea that because it's your image that it's less intrusive than your DNA, because a police officer can't see my DNA profile and then start questioning me or suspect me of something because of my DNA, but they can because of my face, because I can't hide that. So if a police officer sees my photograph because I've been supporting the NHS at the weekend at a march, and they then see me in a shop and they triggers something in their mind that she's on the police database,
would you be happy,
that impacts upon their behaviour.
Would you be happy if police were to take photographs of everybody on a BNP march?
No, because they haven't done anything wrong by being on a BNP march. If they commit crimes or they're suspected of committing crimes, the police have measures they can take. The police
or a march of jihadists through, London's Oxford Street.
The police are given powers in society, so they are allowed to abrogate our rights in certain instances, but we don't give them every power under the sun.
David, do you think there's certain demonstrations that...
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, without doubt. There are some groups who may be bordering on being prescribed groups under the Terrorism Act, but if you prescribe them, you can make them go underground, and that will be... I mean, we are talking about people like Anjam Chowdhury.
Yeah, Al-Mujah Harun, a group like that. Some of those have never committed a crime, but you want to film them,
but isn't it, the police have the right, if somebody's suspected of about to commit a crime, it's about good policing, good detection, they can monitor them. That's within the law.
But surely, let me ask you again, people on a rally supporting somebody like Anjam Chowdhury, there might be 25 people, we've seen him with the placards. Should you not be filming those people?
Absolutely not, if the police have determined that the march is lawful, because you determine whether the march is lawful. If the law says that the march is lawful, then people have the right to march. The issue is if there are individuals who the police know on there or who are potential suspects, then under the law they're able to do that. It becomes a very, very slippery slope if you start saying some marches are good, some marches are not.
What do you think?
It's lawful, it's lawful.
Do you think it's legitimate to say, oh, he's new, he's not been on the march before, let's take a photograph of him and keep an eye on him?
I agree, it is people's democratic right to protest and stuff, but, on certain marches, like, certain groups, like David said, I think there is, under certain circumstances, then the police do film things for intelligence purposes.
Then it's mission creep. What are the circumstances?
Then it's not a right. I mean, you either have a right to do that without being filmed and without being monitored, or you don't.
I mean,
it's...
You can't make an argument for freedom, but not for freedom for others. You can't, and this is what the police does. So this technology is basically, the way I see it, a just more advanced version of stopping and searching. It's targeting certain groups. It's, the police are taking pictures and videos all the time. You saw there was a hilarious example of them, well, actually not that hilarious, quite frightening, of the police tweeting a picture of Michael McIntyre from a helicopter in the sky, and that was a kind of wake-up call for everyone to be like, oh my God, they're actually taking pictures of us from helicopters in the sky on the street. But what they do is they target demonstrations, they target areas that they think crime should happen, which is very problematic in terms of racial profiling. And what this does is it says certain people need to be watched. And if you believe in freedom of expression, and if you believe in people's right to privacy, and the belief that you are innocent till proven guilty, no matter if you're on an Anjam Chowdhury march or you're on an NHS march, that is, you can't have a freedom but.
Yeah. Okay, listen, no. I'm going to curtail your freedom of speech. Sorry, yeah. Thank you all very much indeed. This national database, which covers England and Wales, is storing pictures and videos of people they may have questioned, arrested or observed at demonstrations or festivals, not many of whom were never convicted of any offence. 90 million items are from custody images alone, with DNA evidence and fingerprints. The police are legally obliged to automatically destroy any records they hold of people found innocent or never charged. And in 2012, the High Court ruled that keeping images of innocent people was unlawful too. Yet, despite this ruling, the police continue to amass millions more of these images. Now the Home Secretary has ruled that images of innocent people should be deleted, but only if the person concerned specifically asks for this to happen. The snag is that many of us have got no idea whether our image is on the database or not. Is your image your public property? Paul, Lord Scriven, you've been campaigning on this for a long time. Who's on this database?
Well, we don't know, Nicky. That's the
okay.
issue. They could have, if you've been into custody, false arrest, or the court found you innocent, you're on, because the guidance that just comes out says that the database and the software they're using doesn't have the ability to wipe you off. The software doesn't know whether you're innocent or guilty, so you remain on. So there are millions of people. They're using this off, they're scanning Facebook, they're scanning people who have been to festivals, who have been uploaded.
Why should people be worried?
Well, why should we be worried? Because the whole basis of British law is you're innocent until proven guilty. And I have no problem with the police using good detective techniques and using